Hello everyone. This video is going to be a comprehensive walkthrough of just how to complete the radio promo assignment for audio production class. I'm going to lead you all the way through it, from starting up Pro Tools, recording the voice, adding some music, tweaking things with mix levels, and adding some audio processing to the voice to make it sound its best, and some tips and tricks along the way. So I will be sort of spouting out some keyboard shortcuts and some other things about Pro Tools along the way. It can be useful if this is your first time going through the program to, take some notes, jot some things down, but I'll try to be clear about all the different things that I'm doing along the way. Also, I should note that this is going to be me working through the entire project, so you might have to take, action on your project in smaller pieces. And that's okay, but you can use this whole video as a resource as you go along through this. So I'm going to start up Pro Tools first. And then, of course, the first order of business is going to be, what type of session am I going to create? What am I going to call it? And where is it going to go? All of those good things. So again, in Pro Tools, we all might have different versions. You're going to be using Pro Tools first, the free trimmed down version. So things might look a little bit differently, but all in all, it's mostly going to be the same. Okay, so having a clear and understandable title is important. I'm going to call this Beskid Radio Promo. And I'm going to save this straight onto my external hard drive. So I'm going to navigate to that, and then I have this collection of stuff that I'm putting together for all my classes this semester. So that seems like a logical place for me to use that. So I'm saving things to my F hard drive. That's the folder that it's going to. Now, the export requirements for this, the submission that you actually turn in is going to be a WAV file. That's a sample rate of 48 kilohertz and a bit depth of 16. Now, you see how this is grayed out here on my system. I'm limited or restricted to using this based on the equipment that I have in my office. I can change this to 16-bit, but I cannot change my sample rate. You ideally would want to work in the sample rate that you're going to export in, but you can, during the export process, make changes to the sample rate if you're restricted to working like I am. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit this Interleaved button as well. All right, so I'm making a blank session with these settings. And here's my edit window. I'm going to do a couple of things right away. I'm going to maximize my real estate in my window by closing some of these side windows. Just moving them over with the cursor like that. And then right off the bat, I'm also going to click in the upper right corner of the edit window. There's this little button here, and it has a small A and a Z. I'm going to click that, and it highlights itself. It kind of turns like this yellowish orange. What I've done there is turned on single key shortcuts, which comes in really handy. So instead of having to use those modifier keys like Control, Alt, or Shift, or Option, those kind of buttons on the keyboard in order to do shortcuts, I can just hit single keys, and that's going to improve my efficiency again. So I'll be telling you about those different methods and those different shortcuts as we go. So I've got my script handy here. It's in an email that I wrote to myself. So we wrote this in one of the sections of our class, and I'm going to be reading that. But since I'm creating it, I'm going to be recording directly into Pro Tools. I'm not importing it. I need to create an audio track that I can record to. So I'm going to Track and New. And we talked about this in class, but it's important to make sure when you're recording voice, you record a mono audio track. And I'm going to call it VoiceOver. And just force a habit, I always sort of maximize my track size by hovering over the bottom of it and making it a little bit bigger so I can just visually see a little bit more things happening. In this area here, you see these different columns of information. When I work on these radio production type things, I always want to see inserts, which is a column where I can insert place effects that are going to process my audio, and we'll get to that later. And I also want to see the I/O section, ins and outs, so I know where my audio source is coming from. I would just follow along and see those things. If you want to see additional items or remove some, like I'm going to remove the sends, it's this little chart over here on the left. Click on that, and it gives you checkboxes for what you do and don't want to see there. So I don't want to see sends, and it gets rid of those for me. Cool. So here in the ins and outs section, I know that I'm using a particular audio interface with input 1 as where my microphone is plugged in. For you guys, if you're working at home, you want your ins and outs to say built-in input, built-in microphone, and then your output is probably going to say, like, it might say stereo 1 and 2, or it might say built-in output. If they're grayed out or there's no option there, what you have to do is go to the setup area here and click playback engine, and your playback engine needs to be changed. So I'm using the Fast Track Ultra. That's the name of the audio interface that I'm using. If you don't have options for inputs and outputs in this column, you need to go over to this playback engine area and change that to the built-in outputs or the built-in playback engine of your computer. That's the easiest fix for it, and 99% of the time that's going to solve your problems. If you have further issues with that, then we likely will need to set up a video conference so that I can sort of see what's going on with your particular case and help you troubleshoot it. But pretty much every single time we've run into like a roadblock here, I've been able to solve the problem if you just contact me about it. Okay, so I'm going to mute my audio track because I'm using my speakers and stuff, and I don't want to get feedback into my microphone. And you might want to do this too, but when I record enable this, my microphone levels, you can see them right there. These are pretty good levels, actually. I mentioned before that the Price is Right rules, the closest to the red without going over, is sort of a good place to be. But then, of course, considering that you might want to anticipate some extra power coming through in case as a voiceover person, whether it's you or somebody else gets enthusiastic, you want to have headroom, right? Now, if you're using the built-in microphone on your laptop, or maybe they're like an earbud microphone or something, you won't have control over the level. So the only way that you can control it is by potentially moving it away from your mouth a little bit more. So that's kind of the way that you're going to have to control things. So I've got my script handy. I'm going to read through it a couple of times in different ways. And I don't think I'm necessarily going to go overboard with accents or sort of like ridiculous methods like we sometimes would do in class. What I am going to do, though, is read through it more than once and emphasize different words of different phrases, give myself options on inflection so that I can, give myself some editing options. So I'm going to go ahead and since I'm record enabled, I'm going to hit record and play and make sure that in fact, the record is scrolling and that I'm recording waveforms there. So it looks good. And I'm going to go back to my script and begin. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. You're in control. 419-372-9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. I Ziggy Zumba, motherfucker. Always fun to say that, right? So I'm going to change a couple of things around and just try to give myself some options. So I'm trying to say this a little bit like a hard ass because it sounds maybe to me like it's a powerful sort of rock, some edginess to it, right? So I'm going to try to stay with that, but then give myself some options with the way I said it, right? Here we go. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. You're in control. 419-372-9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. I Ziggy Zumba, motherfucker. Okay, so I think that's actually going to be pretty good for me. Let's go back and listen to it and make sure that, you don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole and find out that you've got bad audio levels or something. So let's take a listen. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Cool. So that's where my first performance takes off. So I'm now just going to edit out the bad stuff that I don't need and start moving things around. Again, I'm using the Smart tool so that I can use all my three main tools, the trimmer, the selector, and the grabber, all at once, just based on where my cursor is. And I'm going to go through here, and I know that there was a second spot, so I stopped, motherfucker, right after motherfucker, and then I explained some things, and then I started over. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. So there's my two takes, and I can rename these audio clips by using the grabber tool and double-clicking and say take 1, take 2, right? And then trim that stuff up. So I'm going to give myself some space here. And I think there was a lot of things that I liked about take 2 a little bit more. So I'm going to listen to that. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. See how there's a difference in inflection there? I think I actually like the first one better, so I'm going to take that. And I'm zooming in with these zoom tools. Or if you want to get fancy, now that we have the one-key shortcuts on, use the T. Sort of my left hand just hovers over the T and R buttons. T is zoom in, and R is zoom out. So that's going to help a lot. And it's based on where your cursor is. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. So let's say I just want to use that first part, and I might use some of this additional content here, or I might take it from take 2. But if I just like this, I want to make a slice right here and break these two pieces. So think of it like that, B for break. So wherever your cursor is and you hit the B button, as long as one key shortcuts is on, that gives me that slice right there. And notice that the names have now changed. Take 1-01, take 1-02. So I'm definitely going to use this. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Now, if you really want to get fancy about this, and I think you should, because an attention to detail is what's going to separate you from somebody else in this sort of industry. When you put this stuff together, you always want to make sure that you put a little fade in and a fade out at the edge of every clip. Not because you want to literally fade into the words. You don't even want to necessarily hear them. But something sounds different than nothing. So sometimes if we don't do this, you might get a little click or a popping sound at the end of each clip, and you want to avoid that. So I always make a habit out of making those tiny little fades. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Cool. So let's zoom out and see which part of this take I like best. Tell us what you want to hear. And then the other option would be Falcon Radio. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419. Kind of like that. So I'm going to go with B for break. And I'm going to move this over. And give myself enough space to put this. And see, I'm just building my favorite takes of each phrase. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. All right, and again, adding those little fades. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. All right, and I think I like the phone number of the other one better as well. Call 419-372-9325. 9325. That sounds a little cooler to me. So I'm going to use that. And again, I'm moving this stuff over so I give myself enough space to put the take that I do like. It's a little fade and a little fade. And I'm always listening to it all like come together because I want to make sure that it still has this like natural sounding performance, because even though you may not hear me breathing, there's like a natural nuance to speech that we need to preserve. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Awesome. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. I like all of that, so I'm going with that one. Break it, move it over, zoom in, add the crossfades, trim it if I need to. And let's just pick it up, make sure it fits. 9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. Nice. That works. You're in control. 419-372-9325. We've got them right. Let's do the You're in Control over here. 419, You're in Control. Yep, like that one better. You're in control. You're in control. 419-372-9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. I Ziggy Zumba, motherfucker. All right. I think I like all of that better this time around. So I'm going to take it, trim it up, add the fades, and then place it where it needs to be placed. With just the right amount of space to make it sound like it's a natural saying. And then I'm going to confirm like where my timing is at. So I'm just a little over. Let's take a listen and see if we can tighten it up at all, because I want to be exactly 30 seconds. Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica. So there's definitely a space where I can tighten it up. I'm just going to tighten things up just a little bit. Make sure it doesn't sound weird. Best. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. You're in control. 419-372-9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. So I think right here I had a little spot where I could potentially move this over just a little bit. Save myself just a little bit more time. Again, I'm just like crunching things to make it fit that 30-second mark. So right on it. 9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. I Ziggy Zumba, motherfucker. All right, nice. Well, so I think I've successfully got this set up the way that I want to. The performance, the right takes, and all that. Now, since they're all these individual pieces, it's going to be, I don't want to necessarily move them all around anymore. I've got it fitting just right. So I'll show you a little trick. It's called Consolidation. I'm going to highlight my very first clip and then hold the Shift button and then hit the very last clip. And that's going to just highlight everything in between, right? Stopping right at the end of this one. And you can go to Edit and Consolidate Clip. And that makes one solid clip out of that. Now I can move it all around just by itself, which is nice. Okay, moving forward, what I want to do is add a little bit of music to this, right? So likely what you're going to be doing is going on YouTube and searching for instrumental music, royalty-free music that, you know, kind of has the right personality or vibe for, you know, everything that we talked about in regards to Falcon Radio. I'm a total nerd, so I have a collection of all this stuff, right? And I've got different music libraries, but you can find similar type things in on YouTube for sure. You could even use like the YouTube music library for it. So I'm going to choose rock music and find, you know, I've got these different categories of things. So let's hear what this might sound like. If you look at the names of all these things, when you have access to a music library like this, they have specifically 30-second long stuff. So I would recommend finding something like that. I mean, make life easy for yourself. That's what people in the industry would do. And that's going to allow you to make use out of the natural ending of that music that's perfectly going to fit our time frame. So I'm just going to preview a couple. All right, I'm not sure if that's like, heavy enough. I want something that's a little bit more intense. Nope. It's also like a little bit more like too hip-hop oriented or something. It's just not the right kind of vibe. So I'm going to move on to something different. Let's try Daring and Dangerous. Ooh. Now, I'm not going to do this for too much longer, but I want you guys to understand that this part of the process, looking for the right music and stuff, this is a rabbit hole that you can get lost down because we have all of the internet to look through, right? So you could spend your entire time just looking for music. Eventually, you just need to make a decision. It's like slightly too active or something like that, you know? So let's do Relentless Energy. It's like taking a while to respond to my hard drive, but let's find it. Yes, this is the one. Got it. So I can drag and drop, and this is a special important note. If you're working on computers that are in the lab at the Colleen Center, you've got to be using WAV files to import in there. You're going to save yourself a whole bunch of headache if you just download things as a WAV file. But if you're using your own system, you very well might be able to use MP3s or various formats. So I'm just taking this, and what I'm going to do is, notice when I try to do this, it's saying, nope, you can't do it that way. That's probably because this particular music is in a different file format than the way I created my session, right? So that means that I have to take note. I want this acid-etched 30-second version. I'm going to import the long way, which is less problematic. It's a little less convenient, but it's going to allow my audio clips to be converted as they're brought in. So I just have to kind of do the browse thing and find that clip that I wanted. It was in audio and my specific music library. I think we went with Relentless Energy there. Acid etched. There we go. So I double clicked on it, and it's going to now, we can tell how long it is, perfectly, like just about 30 seconds, and it's going to now be converted to the appropriate sample rate. Done. We'll play back at the wrong speed. That's fun. No, I want to convert the clip first. Maybe I can remove this and convert it. There we go. So I converted it. That's what we need to do. If you get that sort of warning, what would happen if I just said yes before, this would be imported into the session, but it would play back like too slow or too fast or something. It would sound all wonky. So as long as we convert it first, then we're going to get it in there. When this comes up, you're just saying, hey, where do you want this file to go when you import it? And by default, this is an audio files folder that's within the main Pro Tools folder that was created when I started my Best Kid Radio promo. So use the current folder when that happens. The option is telling me here, do you want to just add this to Pro Tools in like a hidden clip list, which is one of those windows that I closed at the beginning, or do you want to add it to its own new audio track? So that's exactly what I want, and I want it to go to the very beginning of this session. So here, notice the difference. There's two sort of sections here, two waveforms. That means that this is stereo audio and this is mono audio, which is exactly what we wanted. When I listen to this, though, I'm guessing that this is going to overpower my voice. Falcon Radio is the latest rock music available by request. Okay, so there's a couple of things that we can do to address volume. One is to lower the volume of the audio track itself. We have easy access to this in the I/O column. Right here where it says VOL for volume, if you click on where those numbers are, it turns into a little audio fader, and you can just bring down the levels Usually about -15, -16 is a good starting place to sort of lower the music.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
Pretty cool. But I also want to tell you, I'm gonna if I undid that volume change, you can also change. Oh no, backing up, the volume change that I did there. If you adjust volume here, you're changing volume for this entire audio track, no matter what is on here. So there might be other pieces of audio on this particular thing. It's going to be affected by that change, as opposed to clip volume or clip gain, which is this little fader in the bottom of this clip. If I change that, it's changing the volume of that particular audio clip, but nothing else on this audio track. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do, how you want to go about it. In this case, since I know no other audio content is going to live on this now music track, I just double clicked on the title to change it to music. Nothing else is going to live here. So I feel comfortable just making my volume adjustment here. And it felt like the -15.8 that I started at was maybe a little bit too low because I want to have some of the edginess still there.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. You're in control. 419-372-9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. Hi, Ziggy Zumba, motherfuckers.
Okay, pretty cool. And it works really well with that music. There's a couple of things that I still want to do, though, before I export. One is I want to process my voice a little bit. We talk about processing in some of the screen capture lectures and stuff. So important that we understand that we have control over effects processing on our voice, that we can take recorded audio, even if it's recorded great, and make it sound a little bit different. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is apply dynamic range compression to this voice. And since I'm going to continue working on the voice for a while, I'm going to solo the voice so I don't hear the music anymore. All right. Now this inserts column is finally going to come into play. I'm going to insert various effects processing tools onto this audio track, right? And again, if I do something on the track, like an insert effect, it's going to apply to anything that is on this audio track in its entirety. But that works out well because all I'm doing is this voice. So in this blank insert area, I'm going to click and insert a plugin, a dynamics plugin called a compressor. Now, what's beautiful about these little tools, these effects processing units, is that they have presets available to them. So you look at the preset area, and where it says factory default, click there and go ahead and choose vocal leveler, and it's going to have some settings for you already.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
So a couple of things are happening. When you apply compression, what you're doing is you're squishing the loud peaks of your waveform, and you're pushing them down to be closer to the quiet parts. And the result is a form of automatic volume control that is making a more consistent sound out of your microphone, right? Or out of this particular audio content. So the loud parts are being squashed, so they're actually closer to the quiet parts. And that's being shown here on this meter. It has GR, that stands for gain reduction.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
So you see what number it's at here. It's telling me that it's squishing about between -12 and -6, so probably like, I don't know, 10 dB of audio is being pushed, is being reduced, which means that if I'm squashing it that much, then I can increase that much again with what's called makeup gain. So what's happening is if I'm squishing the dynamic range, meaning the difference between loud and soft, if I'm squishing that closer together, I mean, the immediate result of compression is going to be a quieter sound because you're reducing the high levels. But really, you're just pushing the high and the lows closer together. And if I do that, then I increase the gain overall, then I'm increasing those quiet parts too. So I'm actually creating a more substantial sound. And I'll show you what I mean. If I hit the bypass button, you're going to hear my voiceover before I added compression with the makeup gain, and then you'll hear it afterwards.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
And now again with the effect.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
So it's just a little bit more substantial and bigger. And that's exactly what we want, because we want that message to be prioritized. We want to make sure that it's heard over this edgy rock music that I've added there, okay? So let's listen to the difference now if I put the music back on.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
Cool. Definitely a positive difference. Listen, now I'll turn it off again. I'll bypass the plugin, the dynamic range stuff, by holding Control or Command on a Mac and clicking the effect itself.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
All right, now I'll put it back in.
Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325.
It's subtle, but if you train your ears to start listening for that stuff, it really makes a difference. And, the audience doesn't have to know any better. Actually, they're better off not knowing about all these magical things that we're doing. The next thing that I'm going to do is show you what it sounds like if I add EQ on here. So again, another insert spot, and this time adding an equalization, the EQ3 7-band tool. So this shows me a graph of frequency content, right? Everything from the lowest frequencies that we can hear, the lowest bass sounds, to the highest highs that is like a dog whistle, basically, right? But again, so what this is, it's frequency-based volume control. So if I didn't want to hear any low-frequency sound, I could just pull it out of there and say, no thanks, right? But that's not the case. I want to use some special effects here. And usually the one I go straight for is a preset that says telephone vocal. And it's going to create this special frequency content for me. It's cutting out the lows and it's cutting out some highs and increasing the middle. But listen to what it does to my voice.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear.
And if we play that with the music.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325.
Now, it can be really useful. I mean, think about it. If I'm adding this EQ setting onto an insert area here, it's applying to anything that's on this voiceover audio track. But it can be really useful if I only use that in specific spots, right? So what if I removed this? No insert. So now we're back to normal.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
Okay. We're back to normal, but maybe I only want to use it in specific spots to highlight particular words or something like that. What I did with the audio compression here as an insert plugin, that's what's known as non-destructive processing, because I've applied it to this audio content, and it's the compression is happening to this audio content in real time, but I can still turn it on and off as I please, and the original recorded audio has never been changed. Now, there's a destructive way to add processing, which is what I'm going to show you. You go up here to where it says Audio Suite, and you see like the same list of audio effects processing, the EQ3 7-band, and it's going to look almost exactly the same, but it has this little extra section down here and a render button. So you're going to actually make a selection of audio that you want to apply this EQ setting to, and you're going to physically change the audio in a destructive way, right? And the problem, I compare this to non-destructive processing is like taking your audio content and putting a t-shirt on it to dress it up and make it look or sound different, right? But if we use destructive processing, like the Audio Suite stuff like this, you're actually tattooing your audio content. So you won't be able to remove it. If I do too many other things after I render this effects process, then I'm going to be screwed. I won't be able to undo anything, right? So I'm stuck with that audio content in that way. So there's a difference there that you need to understand before you proceed. But let's listen and find out specific areas that might make sense for us to use that EQ setting, which again was the telephone vocal. And we'll use that as just a tool to highlight specific words or ideas.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio.
So maybe what I want to do is
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
by request. All right, that's the important part of that, right? We've got rock music, but it's available by
Falcon
request.
Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
So I take the by request,
By request.
and I listen with this speaker to hear what that would sound like.
By request. By request. By request.
All right, so I'm going to change that. I'm also going to change the output level just a little bit, bump it up, because since I'm eliminating frequencies, the volume is going to get a little lower.
By request. By request.
Okay, so now I'm going to render this, and my selection will physically change. You got to watch this. When I hit render, this waveform will change. Right? Saw it move like that. I'm going to keep this effects processing, this EQ available, because I'm going to do that a couple of times. But now you need to hear what happened.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
That's pretty cool. But we don't want to overuse it.
Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC.
So maybe I want to do the names of the bands like this. So I highlight it and I render it.
Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC.
And then it's going to get back to my normal voice.
We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. You're in control. 419-372-9325.
So I'm going to do 9325 the same way. Render it. Let's listen to the phone number now.
419-372-9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. I Ziggy Zumba, motherfuckers.
All right, so that's the one last thing that I have to deal with. The FCC would not be happy about me just shouting motherfucker, right? So we have to do something about it. I've seen unique ways of doing it. So the censorship thing. The most standard one is doing the bleep. I've had people insert like the falcon screech there, which winds up being pretty cool. So I'm going to show you two different methods to do the censorship thing. So let's listen to the motherfucker.
I Ziggy Zumba, motherfuckers. Fuckers.
So usually it's only part of the word that you need to address.
Fuck.
Right? So in this case, it's the fuck part. So just like I was doing destructive audio processing for the EQ, I'm going to do things the same way. I've highlighted the thing that I want to censor, and I'm going to go to Audio Suite, but this time to Other. And here I've got a signal generator, and I can preview what that sounds like. And it kind of like by default gives me the exact sound I want. If you listen to it, that's what it's going to sound like. Beep. So pretty much ready to go. So I just have to render that spot and listen back to it.
I Ziggy Zumba, motherfuckers.
Right? We hear that kind of stuff all the time. And, you know, whether or not you agree with the FCC rules about what language we can or can't use, doesn't really matter. We can't. So we have to do something about it. So that's one way to leave it.
I Ziggy Zumba, motherfuckers.
Another way, keep that highlighted again and go to Audio Suite. And this time, Other, but reverse. So depending on what curse word it is, this can work nicely.
Cuff.
So it's going to be cuff instead of fuck, right? So I render it and let's hear what it sounds like.
I Ziggy Zumba, motherfuckers.
So you can hear it like kind of backwards like that. I might be able to,
motherfuckers.
Maybe I do the whole thing and reverse it. Let's see if that changes things.
I Ziggy Zumba, motherfucker.
But that one happens to be a little bit awkward. So I think I'm going to go back and just
fuckers.
Just bleep it. So Audio Suite, Other, Signal Generator, Render.
I Ziggy Zumba, motherfuckers.
Cool. I rather like this and how it's turned out. Now, we have some final finishing touches that we want to do with this, okay? I'm going to listen to it a little bit with my effects processing and make sure that now that I've EQ'd certain areas that I can still hear that well with the music.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. You're in control. 419-372-9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. I Ziggy Zumba, motherfucker.
All right, cool. We're almost there. The last bit that I want to do is I'm going to create a new track. And this is going to become, since this was our first time working on it, I didn't do this right to start with. But moving forward, this is probably going to be one of the first things you do when you get started on a Pro Tools session. You need to create a new track that is a stereo master fader. Because right now, when we look at levels on these tracks and this content, we're only seeing the individual levels of the particular audio content on each individual audio track. When we create a master fader, it's going to give us no audio content can live on here. You can't even drag and drop stuff on here. It just gives you a line that shows you volume over time. But it does have a stereo meter here that's actually going to show us what the levels are overall with all our other audio tracks funneled into this one place. So even if neither one of our voiceover or our music is actually distorting, when they're put together and funneled into one place, the master fader might tell us that they actually are clipping when they're sandwiched together.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here is that I've got a little bit of headroom here. I want to maximize the volume of this. Commercials and promos and things like that always have the loudest audio content of anything. And I want this to be consistent with the volume levels of everything else that's around it. So here what I'm going to do is add audio processing, again, in real time in a non-destructive way. On the insert, I click here, go to multi-channel plugin since this is a stereo track. This time when I go to dynamics, I'm going to use the plugin that's called Maxim. This is more dynamic range compression, but in a different fashion. Dynamic range compression that uses, instead of using like a ratio to determine how hard it's pushing down on that peak volume level, this is going to use the idea of a ceiling. So we're going to say that we place a ceiling. You cannot, no matter what, the overall levels of this audio content will never be able to exceed a specific spot. And again, we've got presets here. I'm going with radio limiter. It places my ceiling at -0.1, so it will never go higher than that. And then automatically when this threshold button, fader, is going to allow me to basically increase the audio levels of all of my audio content, in this case voiceover and music, all together at the same time. So let's go ahead and see what that's like.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC.
So you've really got to hear the before and after. So again, I'm going to hit the bypass button. You just really want to make sure that what you're doing is actually a positive change. So let's listen to it before.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
And add it.
Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325.
It's just not as
Metallica,
big.
Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. You're in control. 419-372.
So definitely making a positive change. I'm still not clipping, but I've just like boosted and just like made this a little bit beefier by doing this. So what I've done, again, it's a special form of dynamic range compression called limiting on the master. So I think I'm pretty solid and ready to go. Let's go ahead and show you the exporting process. So you want to make sure that you highlight the length of time that you want to export. If I highlight nothing, I'm going to export from the beginning to the very last bit of audio content that I have. And in this case, if I still had any of the other like voiceover takes or something further over here, it would export all of that audio content. So if you still have any of those remaining clips of audio further in your timeline that is not part of your project, you need to make a specific selection, and that'll work just fine. So I'm selecting the music and the audio content there. You want to make sure that nothing is muted or nothing is soloed. So whatever it sounds like to you when it plays back is what's going to be exported. Now, I keep using the word export, but really in Pro Tools, the full version, they call that bouncing. In Pro Tools First, I believe it is called exporting, and you say export audio. So that's the path you're going to take to get to the next screen that I'm going to see. But I have to bounce my mix. Okay. What do you want to name it? So I'm going to name it the same thing as the name of my session. What file type do you want it to be? WAV file is the correct answer there. It should give you your stereo output, which should match here. That's exactly what I want. Cool. And then what I want to do is make sure that I am doing an interleaved file format. Your choices here. Interleaved means you're going to be exported a single stereo audio file. And that's exactly what we want because we have stereo audio content included, the music. If, say, you recorded just the voice and you wanted to export just the voice so you could have that audio file of just the voice and you wanted to use it some other time, you would want it to remain a mono audio file. So you would put it in mono summed, right? That means you're getting one mono audio file out of here. I would recommend only doing that if it's just the voice you want. Multiple mono is going to give you it's going to export two mono audio tracks, a left and a right. That's not what you want either. So definitely make sure that your file format is interleaved, your bit depth is 16, and your sample rate is 48. The reason why is because this is exactly what's going to work right away when I take this content and throw it on the radio station playback system. If it's not in this format, then I have to go through and do a conversion kind of thing. And really, it's all about understanding what the specific requirements are based on the need here, and the need is to get this on the radio station. And you need to understand in Pro Tools, how do I make changes based on what the need is? And this is how you do that. Where is it going to go? Right now, by default, it always goes into when you created the Pro Tools session, when I called it Best Kid Radio Promo and saved it on my external hard drive, it creates all these other little folders inside of it. An audio files folder, a fade files, a backup session files folder, and a bounced files section. So this is automatically where it's going to go. If you want it to go somewhere else, that's up to you, but this just makes the most sense. The offline button is when you're exporting, do you want to listen back to the entire thing, all 30 seconds in real time as it exports, or do you want to do things offline so it just happens real quick? So make sure you check this. And I'm going to bounce. There it goes. All 30 seconds should be out of there. I'm going to navigate to my external hard drive and that section where I saved it. So here's the folder I saved it to. Best Kid Radio Promo was the name of my folder for my Pro Tools session. And inside it, this is all that content I was talking about. That's why it's so important that if you're going to be moving things around, you take this whole folder with you. So my bounced files folder has my Best Kid Radio Promo. And always, always, always look at the information. So maybe look at the properties. It's telling me how big it is. That's fine. But the details, maybe it's 29 seconds long. Okay, it's a WAV file. That's what I wanted. Okay, all these things are looking good. Let's listen to it. Make sure it has both the voice and there's no surprises.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request. Tell us what you want to hear. Call 419-372-9325. Metallica, Bring Me the Horizon, AC/DC. We've got them right here on Falcon Radio. You're in control. 419-372-9325. Falcon Radio is for Falcons, by Falcons. I Ziggy Zumba, motherfucker.
All right, so I'm sure that you're getting a little sick of this one. As we get sick of our voice, that's just part of the deal. But it's sounding good and it looks good. There's just one more thing that I would say. It is 29 seconds long. Now, we'll be flexible a little bit about the timing of this stuff, but really 30 seconds is 30 seconds, right? And just for the sake of argument, I want to be able to show you some of the tools that are available to deal with this. So, I've got my session here. And I've got my exported audio content here. What I want to do is bring in my exported audio content, and I want to make it perfectly 30 seconds now. All right, so I'm going to ignore the stuff that I've got in here. In fact, I'm going to mute it so I don't get confused. And I'm even going to shrink the size of that stuff. So it's still here, but it's no longer going to be heard or worked on. I'm also going to remove the or turn off the limiting on the master fader, because the audio content has already gone through this process. If I bring in that 29-second audio piece, it's just going to apply this all over again, and I don't want to do that twice. Okay. So now I'm going to navigate to that audio file, and since it's probably not going to let me import it the quick way, right? Because it's in a different format than my session started. So I import the long way. Import audio from the bounced files folder. There it is. And I need to convert it. I'm going to highlight it and convert it. Hit done. Use the current folder. And then say new track. Session start. So this right here, I'm going to solo it. This is my Best Good Radio promo. This is that exported version that we perfected and we like. But if we look over here, it's not exactly 30 seconds. There's my 30-second mark, okay? So if I wanted it to be exactly like that, and I do, what I need to do is turn on my grid, make sure my grid is marked as minutes and seconds, and 1 second is the value, okay? So I can see my grid here now. That's every second I'm going to see a line. There's my grid, 29 seconds, 30 seconds. I want this to be exact. Instead of moving it around, what I want to do is stretch it. So I'll show you a special little trick. If I highlight this and then I click and hold on the trimmer tool, I have some options. This one right here, TCE, it's got a little picture of a clock on it. This stands for time compression and expansion. If I choose that, my trimmer tool is now changed a little bit, and my cursor on that audio clip will now have that little clock on it. So I've got the time compression. This is going to allow me, instead of trimming, when I move it one way or the other, it's either going to squish all that audio content tighter together, or it's going to pull it apart in time. Not trimming the actual audio content. So as long as I have my grid turned on to the appropriate measurement, and I put my edit mode into grid mode, watch this. I'm going to stretch this to be exactly 30 seconds. So it still starts at the beginning. I didn't move it. I just stretched it. And you want to make sure that you didn't. I hit enter to go back to the beginning.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
You can't even really tell the difference because I only had to adjust it by such a small amount. Now, if you only make a 26-second promo and you're trying to stretch it 4 seconds like this, 4 seconds, it's going to sound weird.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
The vibe is all off, and you can start to hear all these little like crackles and stuff like that. And same, if I sped it up, if I created something that was too long, you really have to cut content out. You can't squish it all in. So here's a version if it was squished too much.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available by request.
Right? So I need to Control or Command Z a couple of times to get it back. So exactly 30 seconds. Really, you have about 1 second that you can manipulate like this. 1 second for every minute of content that you can manipulate like that. Okay, so we're not quite done yet. What we really need to do now is keep this new version, this new exactly 30-second version, soloed, and then highlight it, select it, and then go through the export process all over again. So Best Good Radio promo, and then I'm going to say final, because I went through and finalized a couple of different things. Same settings are always there, offline, bounce. And if I go back now, in my bounce files folder, I have two versions, my original finished version and then my final one that's exactly now 30 seconds long. 30 seconds. So now you listen back and you make sure it's there.
Falcon Radio has the latest rock music available.
Good, it's there. You would listen to the whole thing, but then you would submit that and dust off your hands. You're all completed with this. All right, thanks. Hopefully this walkthrough was helpful for you guys. Thanks so much for watching it, and good luck with your projects.